Have you ever noticed how often we wear a mask of niceness? We say yes when our heart is crying to say no. We agree to things we don't believe in just to please others. We sacrifice our peace to gain the approval of people who may not even notice our effort. And at the end of the day, we are exhausted not because of what we gave, but because we gave away ourselves. My friends, being nice is not always noble. Sometimes it is self-betrayal. God didn't send us here just to live as puppets pulled by everyone else's strings. He gave us a voice, a soul, a purpose. If you silence your heart just to appear nice, you are rejecting the very gift God has given you, your authentic self. So today, I want to tell you something that may sound shocking. Stop being nice. Start being selfish, but in a higher sense of the word. Be selfish about your peace. Be selfish about your growth. Be selfish about your connection with God. Because when you guard your own light, only then can you truly shine for others. Selfish about your inner peace means valuing the calmness of your heart above the noise of the world. Imagine for a moment a glass of clear water. The moment you stir it with dirt, it loses its clarity. That is exactly what happens to our mind when we allow every demand, every opinion, every distraction to disturb it. People often confuse being nice with giving away their peace endlessly. They think that saying yes to everything makes them kind, but in reality, it often makes them drained. And a drained person cannot give love, cannot give kindness, cannot give anything of true value. If you lose your peace, you lose your power. Think about how in daily life, small moments steal your calm. You wake up in the morning wanting silence, but the phone is already buzzing with messages. Someone asks for a favor even when you are tired. You agree because you don't want to look rude. At work, your colleague dumps their task on you and you take it thinking it's the nice thing to do. By the evening, you are exhausted, your mind restless, your spirit heavy. Then you wonder, where did the joy of my day go? The truth is, you handed it away in pieces, one yes at a time. Peace is not given, it is chosen. It is not something the world can hand to you. It is something you must fiercely protect. Just as a farmer builds fences around his field to protect the crops, you must build invisible fences around your mind. If he allows everyone to walk through his field, trampling the soil, the harvest will be destroyed. In the same way, if you allow everyone's opinions, demands, and negativity to invade your thoughts, your inner harvest, your joy, your clarity, your balance will be lost. Being selfish about your peace is not arrogance, it is wisdom. It is understanding that your mind is the soil where God's presence grows, and you cannot let it be polluted. Let me give you an example we all experience. Have you ever been around someone who constantly complains? At first, you listen politely, nodding, maybe even offering comfort. But after some time, you feel your own mood sinking. You came with light energy, but you leave feeling heavy. Now imagine this happening daily, listening to gossip, entertaining unnecessary drama, saying yes to every request. Slowly, without realizing, you become an empty vessel. You cannot meditate, you cannot smile sincerely, you cannot connect with God because your heart is overcrowded. That is why protecting peace is essential. It is the oxygen mask of the soul. Just as on a flight, they tell you to wear your oxygen mask first before helping others, you must fill your soul with peace before you can share it. Sometimes people will call you selfish for saying no. They will say you have changed, that you are not as nice as before. But ask yourself, do you want to live nice or do you want to live true? Niceness that costs you your sanity is not kindness, it is slavery. God did not create you to be a doormat. He created you as a soul with dignity, as a vessel of divine light. And light cannot shine if it is constantly covered by the dust of others' demands. By choosing peace, you are not rejecting others, you are simply choosing to meet them with a heart that is calm, not chaotic. Practical life gives us so many opportunities to practice this. A friend calls you late at night just to gossip. You can gently say, "I need to rest, let's talk tomorrow." A colleague pushes work onto you that is not your responsibility. You can respectfully say, "I'm already managing my load, I won't be able to do this." A relative tries to drag you into arguments that drain your spirit. You can calmly step back, saying, "I choose not to fight, I choose peace." These small acts are not selfish in the lower sense, they are sacred in the higher sense. Because each time you choose peace, you choose to keep the temple of your heart open for God's presence. Think about great trees in nature. They stand tall, they give shade, they give oxygen, they give fruits. But how do they do it? They do it because their roots are deep and nourished. If the roots were constantly disturbed, the tree would collapse. Your peace is your root. Without it, you cannot be strong for yourself or others. By being selfish about your inner peace, you are actually preparing yourself to be more genuinely giving, more sincerely kind, and more truly compassionate. At the end of the day, remember this: when your mind is restless, even the smallest problem looks unbearable. But when your mind is peaceful, even the biggest problem can be handled with grace. That is why peace is your real strength. Don't give it away cheaply. Guard it as you would guard treasure, because it is treasure. Every moment of calmness is a jewel. Every breath of silence is a gift. Every pause that keeps you centered is a prayer. And when you protect that, you live not just as a nice person, but as a true servant of God, radiating light, not just pretending to. Selfish about your time means realizing that life is not measured in years, but in the quality of moments we live. Time is the most precious gift God has given us, and yet it is the one we waste the most casually. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose possessions and replace them. But once time slips away, it never returns. Every breath you take is a piece of your life moving into the past. When we say yes to things that don't serve our soul, we are not just giving away a minute or an hour. We are giving away a fragment of our life that can never be lived again. Think of an ordinary day. You wake up with an intention to spend time on something meaningful. Maybe reading, maybe reflecting, maybe connecting with God in silence. But the phone rings and someone pulls you into unnecessary talk. Then at work, someone else hands you their tasks because you are too nice to refuse. Hours slip away. By the evening, you are too drained to do what you truly wanted. You tell yourself, "Tomorrow I'll focus on myself." But tomorrow comes with the same distractions, the same demands. Weeks pass, months pass, years pass. One day, you look back and realize so much of your time went into pleasing others, chasing things that didn't matter, or living according to someone else's plan. That realization is heavy. Being selfish about your time does not mean being rude or uncaring. It means being deeply respectful of the gift of life. It means understanding that every hour is sacred because it holds the potential for growth, love, connection, and purpose. When we allow our time to be stolen by gossip, meaningless arguments, or unnecessary obligations, we are not being humble, we are being careless. To live wisely is to invest time where it truly matters, in nurturing our soul, in pursuing our purpose, in deepening our relationship with God, and in giving our best to the people and causes that uplift us. Think about how people value money. If someone dropped even a small coin, they would bend down to pick it up. If someone borrowed money, they would ask when it will be returned. Yet, when people waste our time, we often say nothing. If a friend makes us wait for an hour, we brush it off. If someone talks endlessly about negativity, we listen silently. But if you really think about it, that one wasted hour is worth more than money, because money can return, but that hour cannot. Why is it that we protect money so fiercely, but not time? It is because we forget its true value. Let me share a simple daily life example. Suppose you plan to spend an evening reading a book that nourishes your mind or writing in your journal to reflect on your life. Just then, a neighbor insists you come over to watch television with them, something you are not interested in. Out of niceness, you agree, spending 3 hours in a way that adds nothing to your growth or joy. Later, when you come home, you feel regret. That is the cost of giving away time without thought. Now imagine if you had lovingly but firmly said no, and instead spent those hours learning, growing, or connecting with God. The fulfillment you would feel is far deeper. Many people reach old age and regret not the things they did, but the time they lost. They regret not spending enough time with family, not nurturing their passions, not seeking spiritual wisdom when they had the chance. These regrets are heavy because they cannot be undone. That is why being selfish with your time is not selfishness at all. It is responsibility. It is making sure that when your days add up to years, you can look back without sorrow, knowing you lived with intention. Even nature teaches us this lesson. The sun rises and sets with perfect discipline, never wasting a moment. The seasons change on time, never delaying. The river flows forward, never backward. Everything in creation respects time. It is only human beings who waste it, thinking we have endless tomorrows. But none of us are promised tomorrow. Each day is a gift, each moment an opportunity. When you recognize this truth, you become more mindful of where your hours go. So, how does this look in practical life? It looks like prioritizing. When someone tries to pull you into meaningless discussions, you can gently redirect the conversation or excuse yourself. When you are tempted to scroll endlessly on your phone, remind yourself that those minutes could be used to feed your soul with knowledge or prayer. When others ask for your time, learn to say yes only when it truly aligns with your values, and no when it does not. Saying no does not make you unkind, it makes you clear. And clarity is a form of respect, both for yourself and for others. There will be voices that say, "Why are you so protective of your time?" But remember, your life is your responsibility, not theirs. God entrusted you with these moments. If you don't value them, no one else will. To be selfish with your time is to live in a way where you honor the divine gift of life rather than scattering it carelessly. Selfish about your growth means recognizing that you are not sent into this world to remain the same as yesterday, but to keep evolving into a higher, wiser, more grounded version of yourself. Growth is not automatic, it is intentional. Just like a seed does not turn into a tree by simply existing in the soil, but by being nourished, protected, and given sunlight and water, you too must consciously choose to invest in your own development. The challenge is that many people give away their energy to things that do not contribute to their growth. They spend hours worrying about other people's opinions, engaging in gossip, or doing things out of compulsion rather than passion. At the end of it, they feel empty, as though life is moving, but they are standing still. To be selfish about your growth is to say, I will not let my potential be wasted. I will feed my mind, my soul, and my heart so that I can become who God intended me to be. Think of a student in a classroom who never opens their books, never asks questions, never makes an effort to learn. The teacher may be brilliant, the books may be available, the resources may be endless, but without effort, the student remains in the same place. Now, contrast that with the student who sits attentively, who studies, who practices, who is hungry to learn. That student grows not because of luck, but because of focus. Life is the same. Everyone has opportunities to grow, but only those who are selfish enough to guard their learning and invest in themselves actually transform. In daily life, many of us allow distractions to steal our growth. We spend hours scrolling through endless content online, comparing our lives with others and wishing we had what they have. Instead of using that time to learn a new skill, read a book, or meditate on God's wisdom, we waste it. Then we complain that life is stagnant, that nothing is changing. But the truth is, growth does not come to those who wait. It comes to those who choose. Being selfish about your growth means turning your focus inward and asking, am I better today than I was yesterday? Even if the change is small, that is progress. One powerful daily life example is when people constantly depend on you for everything, your energy, your advice, your effort, while you neglect your own needs. You may be the one who always says yes to everyone else, but never to yourself. Imagine a candle that keeps giving light, but never protects its own flame. Eventually, the wind will blow it out. That is what happens when you keep giving without growing. When you run dry, you cannot offer anything of value. But if you take time to grow, you become like a well that never runs out because you are constantly replenishing yourself with wisdom, learning, and spiritual nourishment. Growth is not only about education or career, it is about every part of life. It is about growing emotionally so that anger no longer controls you. It is about growing spiritually so that your connection with God becomes your anchor in storms. It is about growing mentally so that you are able to see life with clarity and wisdom instead of confusion. It is about growing physically so that you respect your body as the vehicle of your soul. All of this requires focus, and focus requires boundaries. That is why being selfish with your growth is essential. You cannot grow if you are constantly scattered. Imagine a garden. If the gardener spends all his time watering other people's fields, his own plants will wither. But if he takes time daily to water, prune, and protect his own garden, soon it will bloom so beautifully that others can also enjoy its fragrance. Your growth is the same. If you ignore it, you will wither inside, even if you appear busy outside. But if you nurture it, you will bloom, and others will benefit from your fragrance of wisdom, peace, and strength. People may call you selfish when you say no to distractions so you can study, read, pray, or practice. But remember, this selfishness is sacred. It is not about ignoring others. It is about preparing yourself so you can give more authentically. A person who is spiritually weak cannot guide others. A person who is mentally restless cannot inspire others. But a person who has grown in wisdom and peace becomes a source of strength for everyone around them. Every day, ask yourself simple but powerful questions. What did I learn today? How did I improve my patience today? How did I connect with God today? Did I expand my understanding of life today? These questions remind you that growth is not accidental. It is a choice repeated daily. Some days the progress may feel invisible, but even a tree grows silently before it becomes noticeable. The important thing is that you are moving forward, not standing still. So, be selfish about your growth. Read books that expand your mind instead of wasting time on gossip. Spend moments in silence, connecting with your inner self rather than chasing meaningless noise. Surround yourself with people who uplift you instead of those who drag you down. Protect your energy from negativity and invest it into becoming wiser, calmer, and stronger. Every step you take towards growth is not just for you, it is for the world, because a grown soul becomes a light in the darkness. Selfish about your boundaries means finally understanding that your life is sacred, your energy is precious, and your heart is not a dumping ground for every demand, every expectation, and every negativity that others may bring. Too often, we confuse kindness with weakness. We think that if we let people walk all over us, it makes us humble. But humility does not mean allowing yourself to be misused. Even the ocean, vast and generous, has its shoreline. Even the sun, shining for all, rises and sets within its timing. Boundaries are not walls of ego, they are lines of respect. They are the gentle yet firm way of saying, I honor you, but I also honor myself. In daily life, so many people suffer silently because they lack boundaries. A person says yes to extra work when their plate is already overflowing. A woman accepts constant criticism from her relatives because she does not want to appear disrespectful. A friend keeps lending money, time, and energy even when it leaves them drained, simply because they fear disappointing others. At the end of the day, these people look in the mirror and realize they are exhausted, not from life itself, but from carrying burdens that were never theirs to carry. This is what happens when you live without boundaries. You lose yourself trying to hold everyone else. Think of a house. If a house has no doors or locks, anyone can walk in, whether invited or not. Strangers can bring dirt, thieves can steal, and there will be no peace for the ones who live there. Now think of your mind and your heart as that house. If you do not have doors, if you do not know when to open and when to close, then people will enter your life with their negativity, their expectations, their demands, and their judgments. Slowly, your inner home will feel messy, unsafe, and chaotic. Boundaries are those doors. They don't mean you stop loving people. They mean you love them wisely. In spiritual terms, boundaries protect your connection with God, because when your mind is overloaded with other people's problems, voices, and pressures, you cannot hear the still, gentle voice within. God whispers in silence, but silence cannot exist in a heart that is always interrupted. By being selfish with your boundaries, you are simply creating the space where God's peace can flow into you without interruption. And from that peace, you can truly serve others with love, not with resentment. Let's take a daily life example. Suppose someone always comes to you with endless complaints. Every day, they pour out their frustrations, their negativity, their hopelessness. At first, you listen patiently. But slowly, you notice that after talking to them, your energy feels heavy. You carry their burdens even though they are not yours. Without boundaries, you keep listening, keep absorbing, until you feel drained. But with boundaries, you can lovingly say, I understand you are going through something, but I also need time to recharge. That one boundary protects your peace without rejecting the other person. It allows you to help when you are able, not when you are forced. Another example is in the workplace. If your colleagues know you never say no, they will keep handing you tasks that are not yours. They may appreciate your niceness, but inside you will grow frustrated. Your own work will suffer, your energy will be stolen, and your respect will diminish. But when you set boundaries and say firmly yet respectfully, I can't take this on. I already have my responsibilities. You teach others how to respect you. Boundaries teach others how to treat you. Without them, people assume you are available for everything. With them, people recognize your dignity. Many people fear that boundaries will make them appear selfish or rude. But in truth, boundaries are the highest form of self-respect, and they are also a form of respect for others. Because when you do things unwillingly, just to please, you give with resentment. But when you do things from a place of balance, you give with love. Boundaries don't reduce your kindness, they protect the quality of your kindness. They ensure that your yes is genuine, not forced. Nature itself shows us the power of boundaries. Rivers flow beautifully because they have banks guiding their path. Without those banks, they would flood everything, destroying instead of nourishing. Fire warms and cooks when it is within its place, but when it spreads outside its boundaries, it burns and destroys. Even your own body lives with boundaries. Your skin protects your organs. Your mind filters what to accept and what to reject. Boundaries are not unnatural. They are life's way of protecting what is sacred. When you begin to set boundaries, people may resist. They may call you selfish or distant. But remember, their discomfort does not mean you are wrong. It only means they were used to benefiting from your lack of limits. As you protect your energy, you will notice something beautiful. Your heart feels lighter, your mind feels clearer, and your presence becomes more peaceful. You no longer give from a place of guilt, but from a place of abundance. At the end of the day, being selfish with your boundaries is about preserving your wholeness. It is about saying, I matter too. It is about choosing to walk in dignity rather than in exhaustion. It is about understanding that your soul is a temple of God and temples must be guarded with care. By protecting yourself, you protect the light that shines through you. And when your light is protected, it can glow steadily for others instead of flickering out. Selfish about your relationship with God means realizing that in a world constantly pulling you in 100 directions, your greatest anchor is your connection with the divine. People will demand your attention. Tasks will fill your day. Obligations will knock at your door. But the one thing you must fiercely protect is your time with God. Because when everything else is taken away, it is that relationship that gives you strength, clarity, and peace. If you lose your connection with the divine, no amount of success, wealth, or praise can fill that emptiness. But if you guard it, no storm can shake you, no failure can break you, and no loneliness can consume you. Everyday life is full of distractions. You wake up in the morning, and instead of sitting in silence, you grab your phone. Before you even speak to God, you are already speaking to the world. By the time you realize it, your mind is crowded with messages, news, and expectations. Then you rush into your day, meeting deadlines, solving problems, pleasing people, and you tell yourself, I'll make time for God later. But later never comes. The day ends, and you collapse in exhaustion, promising tomorrow will be different. This cycle continues until days become months, and months become years, and your soul begins to feel distant and restless. That is the cost of not being selfish about your spiritual time. Think of it like this: if a plant is not watered regularly, it dries up, even if the soil is rich. Your soul is that plant. Prayer, meditation, gratitude, and silence are its water. Without them, you may appear alive from the outside, but inside you are withering. People may see you smiling, but your heart feels empty. People may admire your achievements, but your spirit feels lost. That is why you must protect your relationship with God with the same intensity that you would protect your breath. Just as you cannot live without air, you cannot truly live without that divine connection. In daily life, you will often be tempted to give away your spiritual time. Someone will ask you to sacrifice your moments of reflection for a social gathering. Work may demand your early mornings and late nights. Entertainment will lure you into wasting your evenings on endless shows and distractions. If you are not firm, you will always place God last. But being selfish here means saying, my time with God is non-negotiable. It is saying no to unnecessary noise, so you can say yes to silence. It is choosing to sit in prayer even when the world tells you there are more urgent things to do. Because the truth is, nothing is more urgent than nourishing your soul. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine a person who spends just 15 minutes every morning in silence, connecting with God before doing anything else. They begin their day with gratitude, reflection, and intention. Compare this with someone who begins the day scrolling through their phone, comparing their life to others, and rushing into stress. Who do you think will handle challenges better? Who will walk through the day with calmness and clarity? It is not about the hours, it is about the priority. Even a few minutes of true connection with God can transform the way you live your entire day. Another example is how we spend our evenings. Many people come home after work and immediately seek escape in television or endless social media. They numb themselves because they feel drained. But those who protect their evenings for quiet reflection, for reading sacred wisdom, or simply for sitting in gratitude, find that their energy replenishes. They don't escape life, they embrace it with a stronger heart. Being selfish about your relationship with God is not about withdrawing from the world, but about entering it with more strength and purpose. Some people may not understand this. They may call you strange for preferring silence over noise, reflection over entertainment, prayer over gossip. But remember, it is not their soul that you must answer for. It is yours. God is not interested in how many people you pleased, but in how sincerely you lived. Protecting your spiritual life is not selfish. It is sacred responsibility. Because when your cup is full with God's presence, you naturally pour out love, wisdom, and peace into the lives of others. But when your cup is empty, what can you give? Nature itself reflects this truth. The sun shines brightly each day because it does not depend on anyone else for its light. A river flows endlessly because it is connected to its source. In the same way, when you are connected to God, you become like that river, flowing endlessly with strength and grace. But cut off from your source, you dry up. People may think you are fine, but you will feel incomplete. Being selfish about your relationship with God also means not letting guilt stop you. Some people feel they must constantly be available for others, that spending time alone with God is wasting time. But in reality, those moments are the most valuable investment. They are the moments that give meaning to everything else. Without them, you are like a lamp without oil, burning for a short while, but eventually fading. With them, you are a lamp constantly refilled, glowing steadily for yourself and for others. At the end of the day, ask yourself, when all the noise fades, when all the applause is gone, when you are alone in silence, who remains with you? It is only God. That is why being selfish about your relationship with Him is not selfish at all. It is wisdom, it is survival, it is love. Protect that bond above all else. Make time for it every day, even if the world calls you selfish, because in that selfishness lies the deepest selflessness. When you are rooted in God, you become unshakable, unbreakable, and unconditionally giving.